Thanks for joining us for another Kickstarter overview. Today we'll be looking at the game Momiji from 3M Games.
And as always, we'd like to remind you that our Kickstarter overview videos are sponsored in part by our Kickstarter backers and by the creators of this game.
Thanks for joining us at Tantrum House Studio 3. I'm Will Meadows.
And I'm Sara Meadows. And today we're doing an overview of the game coming to Kickstarter from 3M Games called Momiji. It's from designers Dario Massorenti and Francesco Testini, and artwork is from Apolline Etienne.
It's a 1 to 4 player set collection game that's coming to Kickstarter soon. We were able to get our hands on this prototype copy, so let's take a look at how it's played.
To set up the game, assemble the deck of leaf cards for your player count and shuffle well.
Deal 6 cards to each player and then reveal 4 cards into the display. Cards of the same leaf type will stack on each other.
Give each player the same 3 landscape cards for the game and a number of acorns depending on turn order.
Randomly select the number of objective tokens for your player count, and then you're ready to begin.
On your turn, you may choose one action. You may select one column of cards from the display and add it to your hand, discarding any over the hand limit of 8.
If you don't like what's available, you may spend an acorn to draw 4 more cards to add to the display.
Or you may play cards. Cards must be played in stacks of matching leaf cards in number order from 0 to 3.
You may either play 1 or 2 of the same type of leaves, or you may play 2 or more different leaves and possibly take the acorn bonus.
When you play a card, if you cause 2 adjacent stacks with the acorn icons to touch, you get 2 acorns for each visible set in your display.
On your turn, instead of taking or playing cards, you may spend 3 acorns to gain an objective token.
Once the deck of cards is depleted, every player gets 1 more turn and then the game ends. Points are tallied for objective tokens, giving a bonus if you purchase the token, and points are awarded for the number of leaf cards in each stack multiplied by the top card's number.
The player with the most points wins. In Momiji, you'll be celebrating the autumn colors in the Imperial Gardens as you collect differing sets of those leaf cards, trying to gain as many as you can, fulfill as many objectives as you can, and do it better than all of your opponents.
In the game, you will take one of those 3 action choices. You'll need to balance the number of cards in your hand and then also have the right cards to be able to play out. Your piles must start with a 0 and then go in consecutive number order, but you'll have to plan out because you can play multiple of the same card on top of one another. So you can play a yellow 0, leave and another yellow, and then maybe a 1 and another 1. But you have to do it quickly enough to get through however many, because whatever that top number is the multiplier for the point scored for that stack. So if you only get a bunch of 0s and a 1, then you're only going to score 1 point for each of those cards. So you have to plan out very well what you are going to try and do on your turn.
I would say in this game your experience is going to vary a little bit from player count to player count. In a 2-player game, you tend to be able to tell pretty easily which goals you're trying to achieve of those objective tiles. So as soon as you finish a stack and you hit that number 3 in your stack, you'll put a little Tory token on it to mark that you can't add any more cards to that stack. Some of your objectives may be to have the most cards in a stack or the most red cards or the most purple cards, and so keeping count of those and knowing when to pay those 3 acorns to snag the objective tokens can score you big points at the end of the game. You do have to have those acorn tokens available, so playing your cards and paying attention to where those acorns lay out is also important, and it's important to know that the acorns only appear on the 0s and 1s, so once you get up to that 2 and 3 digit, you're not going to be getting any more acorns on those stacks, and so the game kind of ramps pretty nicely as you try to get a bunch of acorns at the beginning that you can then spend at the end, even though you won't have the ability to spend them because you'll be running out of them and not gaining any more. It's an interesting little pressure that they've got in the game.
Yes, one other way to spend acorns. Anytime in the game you can spend one acorn and place it on one of those landscape cards in front of you. You have 3, everyone has the same ones for the game, and there are a bunch of different ones to choose from when you set up the game, so you can plan out which ones you'd like to play with. Those are one-time use powers, and they can be pretty powerful. There's things like rearranging your stacks to hopefully match up acorns better, or plan out how you want to, because you're not allowed to change the stack order unless you have that one landscape available. Another thing you can do is take cards from the display, but also play 2 cards out of your hand. So it's almost like taking an extra turn. So sometimes those can be very powerful, but you won't score the acorn that you've used on that card. So there's a little bit of balance that you'll have to plan out ahead of time for that.
Right, those acorns are worth 1 point each at the end of the game, so having a bunch of those can get you a bunch of points, but spending them will give you a lot of different abilities. Anytime you draw cards off of the deck to add to the display, you're going to draw 4, and they're going to go onto those stacks. So there's a decent chance that one stack that nobody's collecting might build up. It could have 7 cards in it, and if nobody takes it, those 7 will get shunted back to the deck, and then new cards will come out. If you draw a giant pile of them and add them to your hand, it gives you a lot of choices, which is interesting, but you've got to discard down to 8 cards, and so you may have a fantastic stack, but it might ruin other stuff in your hand, and so trying to pick when to take those cards, and there may only be 1 out on the green stack, but it's the 0 you've been waiting for the entire game. The nice thing about the game is that you feel a good level of satisfaction when you get that card that you need, that you've been waiting for, whether or not it's in a stack, and so it didn't, at least for me, as I was playing the game, I found it exciting to be able to get the card plus some bonus ones right as I was going out, and or spend that extra acorn, add 4 more cards out. I already know I want this stack. I'm hoping for the cost of an acorn to be able to add a little, cherry to the top of that stack.
Yeah, if there are no cards in the display, if you take the last pile that is showing, they will automatically refill for free before the next player's turn. So sometimes that brings some interesting choices to your turn. If you plan to take, you really want that last card, but you're like, oh, I guess I could live without it, because then I'm kind of forcing the other player, whoever's next, to either take that card, play something from their hand. You can see like, oh, they have a full hand, they're not gonna be able to take it, so I might go ahead and take the card. Or if their hand is almost empty and you know they're waiting for that one card, you may go ahead and try and play something from your hand so that it doesn't give them a bunch of opportunities of 4 new cards coming off the deck. You also, when the deck runs out, that ends the game. Everyone gets 1 more turn, so you don't want to be stuck right at the end with nothing in your hand to play on that last turn. If you spend your turn adding something to your hand, you've kind of wasted that last, possibly very important turn in the game.
As we mentioned, we are looking at a prototype version of the game, so I don't know what final components will look like. I'm kind of hoping myself that those little cardboard acorns end up becoming like wooden tokens or something. The artwork for the game looked sharp overall. This actually kind of reminded me a little bit of the game Arboretum from Renegade Game Studios, except for maybe a little nicer. Arboretum, and by nicer I mean like less attacking of other people. So in this game you can do what she's saying, look ahead, maybe not draw the card, and things like that, but Arboretum is a lot more like you're stabbing each other.
Well, you are preventing people from even scoring anything for a lot of their cards. In this one, you will score what you have out, and what you've played will determine your score. So the only real thing that you could do is to collect those objective tokens. If you have the token and you've completed the objective, it's 10 points. Whereas everybody else can still complete it, but it's only worth 3 for them. So you're giving up 3 points of your acorn tokens to then bump up the basically double the score and give you 10 points for it. So that is another thing you'll have to plan out and think on your turn when you play the game.
Yep, a lot of good stuff going on. If you're interested in Momiji, check it out on Kickstarter now. And as always, thanks so much for liking, following along, subscribing, commenting, and all that great stuff on our videos here at Tantrum House.
It's from designers Dario, I'm not going to remember. It's from designers Dario Massarenti and Francesco
So close. You're so close.
Castini.